on my videos, I do new moons and full moons. I'll do an oracle reading for that particular, um, for those lunar events and the eclipses too. So I'll add that to my video just as an addition to the astrology that I'm talking about. So grounding your dreams into reality and taking the practical steps to achieve them is one huge thing that I have here. Spirituality is another huge thing going on here with this placement. And also a healthy sense of compassion. Where do you need to draw healthy boundaries? Because with this kind of energy that maybe I'm feeling, and maybe I'll be feeling for the next 2.5 years. I'm not making this up, I'm being honest, because I'm honest in terms of how I speak about things, but it could lend itself to you opening yourself up and you being sort of a sponge, taking in all these different energies and emotions, and the branches blowing in the wind, and kind of thing, and not the roots of the tree that are very strong and steady and holding, being very willful and holding down the fort and all those kind of things. But it could be with boundaries. You could let people in because there's just this sense of compassion that is with this transit. There's just a desire to connect in a really soulful, heartfelt and emotional, spiritual kind of way with this place, with this position, and then there's the compassion that comes with it. But during this time, it's going to be important that you see red flags, number one. Number two, you take care of yourself. Self-care, take time to go inside, replenish, so that, and getting drained, those kind of feelings of getting, psychologically drained, like, oh, this person's vibration is this way, making me feeling this way, uplifting me, pulling me down, and you could be more sensitive to that going on. So it will be important to do self-care, draw healthy boundaries, put yourself first, all those kind of things here during that time. Healthy compassion. What do these things overlap? Evaluate or reevaluate spirituality. This is critical, especially for those Saturn return people. Is to, when Saturn comes back around, you need to metaphorically go down to your basement inside your house, and it's really about getting honest about faith, spirituality, what your beliefs are, and get true to that. Especially the more you resist that and living that, then it may be more difficult. Just sort of, I'm just assuming that it may be more difficult. And so tomorrow you're going to be having the opportunity to talk about what you're experiencing, what you're feeling, because we're going to be going to a building, because Saturn structure, it's tall buildings, relates to the bricks and mortar kind of thing. Pisces is, can deal with counseling and therapy, so that building that I went to and talked to that therapist 2 years ago, that building came, when I think of Saturn and Pisces, one of the images I get is this building. And you're going to see what it looks like tomorrow. And there's also somebody that I knew for about 6 months who was a therapist of mine who probably had this placement. And maybe you may meet her, maybe you may get that opportunity tomorrow. But yeah, so talking about what you're experiencing, knowing you're not beyond help, whatever you're experiencing, and don't think that it's so strange and nobody else is experiencing it, because even though it may not be that same experience, we all kind of can emphasize and know what certain things feel like, be able to understand it as such. So all those kind of things here, it's okay to be vulnerable. I thought of titling the video for this "A Thickening of the Veil," that it's hard to connect the divine and such. And what's interesting is during the same mystical, quiet transit, it's okay to sit in the silence, like really take time where you're just sitting and feeling your feelings. But during the same transit, looking ahead a couple years down the road, 2025, this is, the sun, Aries is kind of the big sign for 2025. In the spring of that year, because we have Neptune moving into that sign. We have Saturn moving into that sign on May 24. And, so interesting that it's quiet now, and we're sort of tying up loose ends, and today marks the beginning of the end of the Saturn cycle. And then Saturn moves into Aries, and it's super dynamic, and it's super, when it conjuncts to Neptune and different kinds of energy, it's really fiery energies that we're going to deal with. And another thing that I'm thinking about is we may spend that spring with tying Superman and the story of Superman.
It's going to be 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
6, 7 minutes, I guess.
Okay. And I just want to say, Neptune is the unconscious, and Aries relates to fighting. The warrior energy is sort of, but at the low level can be just anger and this kind of innate feeling of anger. So it's kind of like Venus is considered, detriment in Aries, just to say. So it's kind of, we have this mystical planet moving into the sign of the warrior, and compassion, empathy may turn to those who stand up, be assertive, all those kind of things, but low level, I don't know. And so, sit in the silence is another thing, believing in yourself, taking time for deep listening, and then not going into martyrdom and victimhood too is another thing. And clarity, indecisiveness, clarity may be harder to find. And one of the things that for Sun and Virgo going on the same day, it's about practical reality, is about structural routine, organization. and it brings to light your flaws and what criticizing yourself and stuff like that. And Pisces, and Saturn is saying whatever you've experienced, accept that and have compassion and self-love for yourself and be the practical dreamer. So the practical dreamer, Saturn in Pisces, and the full moon in Virgo, practical dreaming. So today's the day of practical dreaming. Next 10 years. So anyway, I have to get honest with myself that that's as much kind of substantial information I can think about with the time that we have. After dinner at 7 o'clock, you'll go in the theater and see those clips. I will enjoy my evening and have that kind of thing going on. So, that's all that I have.